How's the new stock doing?
Up 3 at the close of the Dow yesterday. Another 2 so far today.
Beautiful.
Listen, Tone, I think we may have a problem.
Log off. That cookie shit makes me nervous.
I think we may have a problem about our friend, the twin.
Yeah, so?
My Goomba Joey Flies, he hangs out at the Nest in Bloomfield.
Chip LaMonica's place.
Yeah. So our friend is a fixture down there, and Joey says lately he's been into the booze very heavy. He's all fucked up. A couple of times I had to pick him up off the floor. So Chip went to him. Pat, what the fuck? Can I do anything? Etc. Patsy launches into this single malt diatribe about how people can smile in your face and still be a villain, and that he knows how his brother died and who's responsible and all that there.
He mentioned me by name?
No, me neither.
You hearing this?
How the fuck would Patsy know we clip spoons?
What, that fucking twin telepathy?
Somebody's putting ideas in this kid's head.
Don't let us interfere with your golf game.
Maybe a cop trying to flip him. Getting him worked up with theories.
I was talking weird the other day.
What should we do?
Well, we brought him over from Junior's crew to keep an eye on him. So that's what we'll keep doing.
I mean, make no mistake. Part of this guy loves you. But it's gotta be hard coming into work every day, looking right into the eyes of the guy you know ordered your brother whacked, and even having to smile.
All right, WBV 133, those two voices, those two actors that you just heard there may sound familiar. Tony, what do you think there, man? Who did they sound like? Did they sound like they were from some sort of gang or mafioso type clique?
Possibly. Bloods or Crips, maybe.
Yeah, you think that was a Bloods or Crips conversation?
I think so.
WBV 133, my name is Denny. This is Tony on the phone here because it's coronavirus and we can't leave our houses, but you could still do radio or a podcast, right?
Yeah, and we can leave our houses to go, buy food with 800 other people. We just can't go outside and do anything else.
It's so bizarre, man. This is the closest thing you're going to see to an sort of the end of the world, the apocalypse.
I hope so.
You're right.
I hope this is as close as we get.
You don't want to get closer?
No, I really don't want to test that.
So we have the reason we just played that scene there. So we're going to have one of those actors on the show today on the WBV podcast 133. His name is John Fiore. You may know him as Gigi Cestone on The Sopranos. And Sopranos was kind of a big show, right, Tone? Weren't you kind of a fan back in the day?
A little bit. I like it a little bit.
Yeah. You like that and Three's Company, right? Those are neck and neck with each other.
Exactly. They're so similar. How do you pronounce Cestone? Is it Cestone or Cestone?
I don't know. We can find out from John, who's the actor, but I think it's Gigi Cestone. That's
Gigi,
just my thought.
As in John Luigi Cestone, or Luigi. That's where Gigi comes from.
Oh, the full name. Oh, yeah. I think it's Inja.
I did some research.
What is it again? Say it. Is it Inja?
Gian Luigi. Gianluigi.
And of course the other actor there we know is James Gandolfini. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
Tony Soprano. What a unbelievable show. But it's we're coming to the time where I want to give him a call. So you ready to go, bud? We're gonna give John Fiore, the actor, the famous guy, a call. I can't wait, man. This is gonna be so cool.
Send you straight to voicemail.
No, we met through family and I mean through school, the kids' school and stuff like that. He's a good dude. See, now I just
it'd be real funny if you just didn't let him know you were calling. And you
just called him randomly. Hey, John, how's it going, man? All right, here we go. Phone. How do I still use a phone? Look at that. It's dialing. It's fantastic.
Hello.
Is this John Fiore?
It is.
How are you, man? It's Denny and Tony at the WBV podcast.
Hey, Denny and Tony. What's happening?
Not much, man. Hey, I'd love to know, first off, where you are right now, because we're all in quarantine, so you got to be somewhere weird. Are you in like a basement or a corner?
I'm sitting in my car, alone in a parking lot, with a bottle of bourbon in one hand and a pistol in the other. It's not that bad yet.
That sounds like a scene you were in, John, I was going to say, right? I mean...
Yes, I'm trying to embrace that whole noir lifestyle, but I am... The other two things I do not have with me at the moment, anyway.
Bourbon in a car. I'm telling you, man, that's the scene from I believe that's one of your first scenes on The Sopranos. But let's get into that. First off,
that is correct.
Thank you for joining the WBV podcast 133. John Fiore, the actor John Fiore, who's we were lucky enough to get today on the podcast. And John and I met, what was it, a few years back? Our kids went to school together?
Yeah, probably what? 6, 7 years ago ish. You think that sounds about right?
I think that's about right. Yeah. So my wife told me, I'll never forget this. She goes, I was at the kids pickup today and there was a guy, he was an actor in Sopranos. You ever heard of that? I'm like, I don't know, maybe. And she's like, oh my God. So of course, I looked you up. I'm like, oh my God, that's phenomenal.
You never know where one of the dirty, low-down actors is going to turn up, man.
No, it's great. But I really appreciate you. We've been chatting about stuff, the last few months about movies, stuff like that. But we're going to focus on you today. And Tony, my colleague. Can you hear me, Tony, by the way?
I can. I was afraid you forgot to merge the calls.
Oh, no, thank God you just texted me that. My wife's talking to me. I'm talking to John. You're talking to him. He's in the car with bourbon and a fucking gun. I don't know what's going on.
Nice. Hey, John, pleasure to meet you.
Hey, Tony, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Thank you.
Well, what I was going to get, John, so just prior, Tony and I were talking. So if when you listen to this podcast, we introed with a scene with you and of course James Gandolfini, rest his soul.
Yes.
And you were talking. There was the one scene which stands out where he goes, "Hey, turn that thing off." I don't like him collecting cookies. So that's the scene. Yeah. So that great scene. And we were just chatting about your career, but I just want to start somewhere right from the beginning. So you're from Somerville, right? You grew up in Somerville, Mass.
Somerville,
yeah.
From Somerville. Didn't really take like drama in high school or anything like that. I liked movies. I remember as a young teen, a friend of mine had like a Super 8mm camera his father had. We messed around with that. We were learning how to splice film. And anyway, I kind of get off of that. I, sort of laid dormant in my mind, maybe I want to do that someday, but it was really in the back. It was just shoved off to the side. And then I had a job in the court system in Cambridge as a court officer. I had dropped out of college. I was going nights, going back and forth, just taking my time getting to it. I had a decent job. So anyway, when I went to graduate, the registrar said, you didn't fulfill your requirements. All that requirement stuff. You got to take this. Anyway, I had to pick something from the speech column, and acting was in there. And,
really?
It was like voice and articulation, public speaking, this, that, acting. And he says, you have to take one of these to graduate. And I went, well, I think I'll try the acting, And, because I was funny with my friends and outspoken, right. But I was fearful in front of a group, like in school, if you were called upon or whatever. So
public speaking, it's the scariest thing on the planet.
It's a whole different thing. So I thought maybe, this will be good all around, So I took it. And as they say, I legitimately got the bug. I started doing stuff locally. I went to New York relatively quickly, within a few years of getting whatever you can get. In Boston back then, it wasn't like it is now. It was slim pickings. But you had to go to New York. So I kind of went there, and I got on Law & Order quick as a recurring.
Well, hold on, John. Tony and I were just looking at One Crazy Summer, which is a movie that sticks out in my mind, right, Tony? I mean, that was classic, dude.
That's right up there with The Sopranos for me.
Really? Huh? Is it? Yeah.
So we were trying to figure out what's a crewman. So you were a crewman through the IMDb.
Well, was the gig itself was better than. I mean, you only see me momentarily. If you remember, the movie, you guys.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There was a sailboat race, right?
Yeah.
I was on the Australian boat that was skinny as a rail, and the job they put us in a hotel down there for about 10 days down the Dennis, West Harwich way.
Oh.
And I said, my God, this is unbelievable. We got out the boat just about every day. And to maneuver those boats into filming position was, it took a while. So we'd basically be just cruising, waiting, get lined up with the other boats, and then have a few minutes of action. You know what I mean? So,
it's a tough gig.
Yeah, and my one line getting off the boat was, "Thank you, mate."
Was that your first line ever in a film?
I don't know if it was my first line ever. I'd have to look at the dates. I don't know if Spencer came first.
Oh, okay.
That's another one that jumped out at me. Spencer for Hire, man. I used to watch that. My mom used to watch it, and she let me watch it, and I just love that show. I haven't watched the new one.
No,
because I don't know if it'll do it justice. To be honest with you,
John, you notice how Tony said his mother let him watch it, so that means the age disparity here.
So there is. You don't.
We're in our mid-40s.
In case you weren't feeling old, Denny had to drive that one home.
right.
But going back to One Crazy Summer, that came out in '86, and we were like 11 or 12.
Yeah.
So that humor is
Love
like.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the first time we were exposed to that the guy getting stuck under the chair and the guy just eating beans and farting on his head.
That's right.
I know.
Stuff that used to make me laugh, but still makes Denny laugh.
That's why I have a podcast.
That may have been the beginning of that kind of stuff in a way, those kind of movies that came out. But I remember one thing that the thing that stands out the most to me about that movie was puking horrifically on that boat from drinking B-52. We drank heavily in some bar where we were staying, the whole cast, like the day before, starting like a 3:30 p.m. drinking session, went into the night. And we drank shots and all kind of stuff. So the next day we're on the boat. I started off okay. And then I was so sick, couldn't get off the boat. I mean, beautiful, gigantic sailboat. I went down below. I tried to sneak away from everybody, and I laid on the floor, and I puked my guts out.
Oh.
I just puked, and then I went back upstairs. I wanted to literally hurl myself overboard,
Were you kind of freaking out? Because this is one of your first movies, and you're thinking, oh my God, they're going to give me the boot because I got
honestly,
and I can't stop puking.
I really didn't care. At that point, I didn't give two fucks about anything. I mean, I didn't want to get the boot, but when you're seasick like that, you go, if I can get off this boat and they told me I can never act again, I'll make that clear. I could care less. But then the thing is, nobody was really on the boat. All the the directors and all those people are on the other boats. So,
so
okay.
we didn't really have anybody on the boat like that. Maybe some guy with a walkie-talkie going, okay, all right, I'm over the Australian boat, get in the position, turn it around. So, and the owner, it was some guy and his wife, they owned the boat. They were probably younger than I am now, considerably. And I went up to them and go, hey, man, I just puked my guts out down there. They go, don't worry about it. I go, I'm all right. I was so sick the entire time on the boat. I was sick. As soon as my foot hit land, I was cured instantly. I'll never forget it.
Wait a second. Were you guys drinking on the boat, or you were just hungover? Just hungover. Okay. Yeah.
And mixing. We were young, mixing different drinks. And I just remember I remember to this day, as soon as I got on the ground, I felt 100% totally cured. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. And then you went to the bar.
It was unbelievable. That's what I remember about that movie.
That's great, and that's local too. You mentioned Dennis. That's the Cape, so that's cool. And it was Mystic Pizza, NYPD. So it sounds like Tony and I are just going through your stuff. It's so fucking awesome. I mean, we all know The Sopranos. That's what we first came in with.
Yeah.
The audience listened to, but Meet the Parents, Law and Order, fucking Guiding Light, Larry the Cable Guy, Meet the Mobsters. I mean, dude, you're so fucking busy.
I was for a while.
Well, that's what I mean. Where are you at now with that?
Well, I'm kind of in between. Part of me is I think I told you once before, I don't really chase it around as much. I've kind of said, I wouldn't say I said no to offers per se, but I've said no to a lot of auditions, and I just sort of lost a little bit of my verve for it. But I still do it. It's on a day-by-day, case-by-case basis. If it sounds good, if they call me, if I'm in the mood, I'll go to the audition. If none of those apply, then I don't go.
No kidding, huh? That's great, man. That's great. And I obviously, just like I was in radio, and there's no money in radio, and a lot of folks would say the same unless you're a mainstream actor. you don't have to throw figures, but was it enough to kind of keep you afloat? Did you have to get I always had a side job as a disc jockey because I couldn't make much money. Or was it always acting that got you through the years?
Well, the acting kept me going because in between, say, Law and Order, for example, in the early days of rerun TV, it's a little different nowadays. You remember there was just 3 networks back in the day.
Right.
So if you did an episode of Law and Order and got paid $600 per day, as an example, and they reran the show, like, they had reruns. They called them reruns. You don't even hear that anymore necessarily. They paid you again the same amount.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Whatever you made. Yeah. So say you did 20 episodes, that was like minimally 20 additional checks coming your way. So in between, and then you would, back then I would do corporate videos. A lot of corporate videos existed in the Boston area back then, where you dress up in a suit.
Wait a second. Stop. Pause, John. What's a corporate video? This sounds good.
Yeah, you'd wear a suit and go, "So, Denny, come into my office. I want to talk to you about your behavior and the Me Too shit." You cannot be exposing yourself by the coffee machine, Denny.
But the crotchless underpants. I'm sorry, I have them.
I've seen a ton of those, and you seem like way too good an actor for one of those. Well, some of the acting in that is painful.
Yeah. A lot of them really, really suck. We did them back in the day. Some of them were so straightforward, about, they were technical. They kind of sucked to do, but you did it. It was union. It was part of Screen Actors Guild. So you did it. You did the best you could. Every now and then you get a scenario, a couple of times play an alcoholic father. You have a wife and kids, and it's real dramatic sort of stuff,
Yeah.
And there was a fair amount of that stuff. So between going to New York, doing this and that, doing those, doing a commercial, and going on and off unemployment as needed.
I see.
So you were never really without, you see?
Right.
Saying you worked 10 weeks in a row and you knew for a month you wouldn't have work, you go, I'll go on unemployment. And if a residual check came in, you didn't have to report it. So it was a beautiful system.
Sounds like you mastered it.
Oh yeah, I fucking mastered every trick in the book.
So you're in New York. You're so you get the Sopranos gig, right? This is fucking the biggest gig ever. Tell us, walk us through. So just a reminder to the WBV 133 here. We're with John Fiore, Gigi Cestone. Actually, Tony and I were having a fight over, is it Cestone or Cestone?
Well, it's always said Cestone.
Cestone.
So many people said the Cestone. I guess if it was an I, oddly they would, right?
Right. Yeah, rigatoni. Or
that doesn't even make sense.
Sounds good. So
it's always Cestone.
So it's the year 2000. It looks like is where right around where you started. You have Mystic Pizza. You had all these other things you've done.
Yeah.
And New York Undercover. Wow, there's a lot of shit. So now we get to the Sopranos. Now I know we talked about this before, but I believe they were a couple seasons in.
They were one season completed.
Yeah. Just one.
I think I started in season 2. I did a little bit in season 2. Okay. Now, when the show first went on, when it was airing on Sunday night originally, I wasn't dialed into it then. I knew it was there. I was just.
You weren't watching it.
Not really, no. I just, how sometimes it takes time to get into these things, but I was sort of So I was staying with my friend's house in California for a while, and he said, "Oh, this great show, you got to watch it. It's good." So I watched a couple of 2-3 of them, and I really got into it. And I ended up watching the first season. I think, then, believe it or not, I watched the rest of season 2, all the ones I wasn't in, that had aired already before I got on. I mean, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but I watched them from an apartment James Gandolfini let me stay in.
No
He had them all
way.
on VHS. Oh, yeah, that's another story I can tell you.
It's awful.
Yeah,
tell that one after.
By then I was, obviously I was so into it, so into it.
So you're watching it. You're devouring all the seasons. So you get there. So who hires you, and how does that process work for you to become?
You get a call from your agent to go to an audition, And you go in, you try to feel good and be optimistic, but you got to realize there's truly are a dime a dozen. Let's face it.
Right.
Everybody is in every profession pretty much, but the cliche in acting, you really are a dime a dozen. Anything I see on TV, I go, that guy's good. I could do that. He could do that. This guy. I mean, a lot of people could do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unless, for the most part, a lot of people can do a lot of stuff. There's certain levels of acting that you go, I can't do that. You're honest with yourself. But a lot of this sort of regular guy stuff, a lot of people can do that shit.
Well, I think we've talked about this before, John, where where you're talking about the crazy, like the what's his face, Daniel Day-Lewis that did Abraham Lincoln. He's in character. It's fucking everything. He does 75 pages and he nails it with an accent. But then also
some of that's you tip your hat to that stuff. Some of that stuff you go, I'm not at that level. I can't do that.
Yeah, right.
Especially as you get older and things settle in. When you're younger, you strive for that. You hope to be that guy, but then you go, well, that ain't happening, So then you say, well, I can't even do that now if they wanted me to. But there is a lot. But there is a lot you can do. This is why I try to tell. I call them my students, even though I don't really have any. People ask me, for advice and stuff. So I said, well, and this is what I tell them. I said, just try to be the coolest variation of you.
Right.
And do a little spin this way or that way, but you're always kind of you for the most part. Because for the most part, they're not going to call upon you to play fucking Abraham Lincoln.
Wait, hold on, John. You never got the call to play Patrick O'Callaghan or Finbar McGillicuddy? No, that never. No.
Never, man.
Jeez.
They didn't call me to play Jesus Christ or anybody like that.
So when you got that call to audition, was that after the first season, right?
Yeah.
So it was already picked up for a second season, but it hadn't. I don't think it hadn't exploded yet, right? It was still kind of like, this is a good show, but it's not HBO's number one show yet. But you knew of it, and you got to be pumped to get that call.
Yeah. I would say midway through season 2, it did explode, but it kept exploding even more. Midway through season 2, it had become sort of a the beginning of its phenomenon status, and only to keep growing as the seasons went on. Yeah. But by for example, I wasn't part of season 1. They had their rap party, I heard, in the back of a pizza parlor, and they weren't even certain they were going to be renewed to come back for season 2. At season 2 rap bash, whatever, it was at the Ziegfeld Theater. This huge place where we had the party, and each year going forward, the venues for that got bigger and bigger and more star-studded and just unbelievable. You'd see Keith Richard would be at the party. Bruce Springsteen. I mean, everybody in New York, everybody was at these premiere parties that they end up having. It was really something.
And that's the thing, right? It was this. I'll use Breaking Bad as an example, right? Breaking Bad came so long after, but The Sopranos is that type of show that started it for all these other shows. It was like nothing anyone had ever seen, and it just dealt with stuff so realistically. Yeah. I mean, I think that's why people took to it, and they were like, I always described it as like watching The Godfather or Goodfellas on a weekly basis. Like, it was that good.
Yeah, it really was good like that. And at HBO at that time, they were just delving into sort of this dramatic format, doing an hour drama, and I don't know, maybe there was something, there probably was something, but to not have any sort of regulations. It didn't have to be you could swear, there was nudity, there was violence. Yeah. So, to go back to, say, a network drama, it seems so tame. So, it was
which you did a lot of, right? When you say network drama, that's like NYPD Blue.
Yeah,
that's Law and Order. That's because they have guidelines. No swearing. There's right.
Yeah. And you think of the luck David Chase had, and really we all had, because don't forget, he shopped the show around to the networks. He was praying to God that he would get picked up by ABC, NBC, or whatever, one of them. And he nearly did get picked up by one of them, but they didn't do it. And that turned out to be a great stroke of fortune for him and all of us, because had they picked it up, it probably, would have ran half a season had been canceled.
It would have been a watered down version of watered down version of what it became
so
because of
down.
HBO's. Yep.
It just, but there he was though. You just think of how like things happen in life that when that happened to him, that was like the best thing that ever happened to him. You know, being told to go away. We don't want it. And then a couple of 2-3 years later, HBO says, "Yeah, let's do this." Yeah,
Yeah, and I mean, can you imagine trying to tell a mob story without swears? And like now,
so this freaking guy came over me. He got me so mad I was furious.
Right.
Get out of here, you jerk!
That's pretty harsh.
It doesn't work for some reason, but I mean, and that was the other thing about the show is that it was just so it covered the mob like nothing anyone had ever seen, right? Like, and I may be jumping ahead here, but in the scene where you shot Philly Parisi, and then you go to the fucking service, and Gigi apologized. You know, my condolences to his brother Patsy. It's like, oh my god. And you want to be like, man, these guys are low, but you still end up loving them.
You love them, of course.
That's the whole beauty of that.
Well, yeah, because you know it's a bygone era in the sense that the mafia. Let's face it, ain't what it used to be. We all know that, right?
Yeah.
But these guys, for the most part, and the way the Sopranos, I think I'm not like as fans that know more about the show than I do, but everybody involved was in the game, so to speak. You know what I mean? So if you got killed or robbed, you were in the game. You knew what could happen to you.
Yeah.
For the most part, it spared the innocent people, if you will. I don't think every time, but largely, like, well, they're killing each other. Let's fuck it. They're in the mafia. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I think it's romanticized. I mean, that's what the mafia is. It's a look into, and that's why I'd hate to say it. I'm a big fan of serial killers and interested in but honestly, into a life that I would never fucking imagine myself. I would never stalk people and murder them. I can't loan shark. I don't even know how to do it. I'd be like, dude, I gave you $20, give me 30. Right? I don't know. I'm not good at it. So in other words, it's just the normal guy sitting there watching TV. Not normal, you know what I'm saying? Just the guy that's just like, Joe, fucking go to work 9 to 5, is like, wow, man, what ball? It's fucking balls to do all that shit.
Everybody has that side of them. No, everybody has that side of them somewhere, and if they can see somebody else do it, it may satisfy that itch.
Right.
You don't have to be that guy to do it, but you can watch somebody else do it.
Yeah.
And it totally, Denny, say somebody puts a fence up, your neighbor puts a fence up and it's a foot on your property, and now you're a pussy, so you wouldn't say anything. You'd probably have your wife go over and take care of it, but
fucking asshole.
But don't the fantasy part of saying, hey, move that fence, and then them saying, go fuck yourself, and then them realizing later that they made a huge mistake. It's just this like simplistic way of taking care of it. Yeah. But you envy it when you watch it,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've been pining for, not to get off topic here, but like say the government, right? As many guys in the mob say, the government's the biggest gang on the block. Let's face it. And you look at the behavior, not to delve into politics deeply.
Oh, feel free.
No, I think we're all Trump fans here.
I'm going to assume that you're a progressive since you're from Somerville, right? Was it like it is now back then? I'm going to assume it was.
There'd be a riot if it was like that back then. We wouldn't take any of that shit. But
exactly.
Like in the old days, when we romanticized the mob, I grew up. I knew a lot of players, shall we say? Mm-hmm. I was close to it. And, there was a certain code, and, you go, something? I get why they started the mob. I understand it. Then you get a little different, and you go, fuck the mob. They're bad. They suck, And then you get even a little older, and you see the shit the government pulls, what they decide to do, who they decide to drop bombs on, go to war with. You go, really? What is the fucking difference precisely? Not much.
The difference is that the mob took care of their own neighborhood and their people better.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this fucking government, for example, some towns, they want to arrest you or fine you for not wearing a mask or doing this, doing that. They'll fucking throw you in jail for fucking income tax. You start going, wait a minute. Who's the fucking mob here?
Exactly. It's funny because it reminds me of the show that had a similar take at one point on corporate America when I think Paulie Walnuts and Silvio go into a Starbucks. It's not a Starbucks, but they're trying to shake the guy down to pay protection. And they're like, oh, you have to call our corporate offices. And they're like, what the fuck is this? And there was nothing they could do,
That's so funny.
They fucking ruined everything, man. Even shoplifters. It used to be a game of cat and mouse. You and the store clerk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You steal, they catch you, they win. You get out, you win. Now there's fucking counter surveillance, buzzers. They took all the sport out of it.
It's true. It is true. And I think about, like, what are our kids going to do for fun? You know, like what?
They stare at fucking
iPads.
iPads.
Of them.
They stare at iPads. Yeah,
as a dog. Like, what the fuck?
Oh, you can't ring some asshole's fucking doorbell and run away. They film you.
Oh God. Yeah. Everyone's got a ring. They'll see it, and they'll email it to your parents and say, "Look what your son did."
Yeah. He was out having fun.
Creeping authoritarianism. Don't get me started on that shit. You know?
Jesus H. Christ.
But,
So, hey, John, I want to jump in. So we were in The Sopranos. We were talking about that. So you did a fantastic. You got the gig. You did it. You fucking killed it. Now, when we first met, you told me the story about the call you got from David Chase and how Gigi Cestone with his demise. I think we all need to hear that one.
Yeah. Want me to start? Want me to give you a little quick synopsis of how I got the gig, and then I'll go to the.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
No, that's quick. So anyway, I go there. We said no because we got off track. I went to audition, and there's you walk in the room, and there's a whole bunch of guys who look like you know.
Oh, really?
And they're all they're all going for this role or whatever.
Yeah.
And you look around and go, like I said, any of us in this room could do this role. Anybody. It's just who they pick. So I had these leopard shoes I got from the Law and Order movie. They weren't. My character didn't wear them. The bad guy in the episode, they were giving wardrobe away. Real fancy kind of showbiz shoes. That you wouldn't wear them around unless you were kind of a jerk off. You know what I mean? But
guy's a real dickhead.
Yeah, if you were in a band or in a show or something, you know what I mean? You can get away with it if you're a certain type of guy. Anyway, so I kind of looked. I wore them there. And the audition only had a couple of disjointed lines, which means they weren't even like, hey, how are you? Good, what are you doing? It wasn't even like that back and forth. It was like on page 1 you had a line, and then you'd flip to page 7, and you'd have some other line. So you're saying these lines in a vacuum. Any actor would tell you that's the worst. You know what I mean? You're just saying it like, it's kind of like.
It's out of context.
There's no pre and there's no after. You're just trying to create the moment, and it's a little tricky. So I remember going in there, and I didn't know who was behind the door. Usually in the first go-round, there's minimal people. Maybe even one person with a camera, maybe 2 people. I opened the door, and there was 10 people in there, including David Chase himself and all his fucking cronies and the whole gang. And I walked in, I went, I swear to God, my first words were, you're going to see a lot of good actors here today. Nobody's out acting these fucking shoes. I'll tell you that right now. Everybody laughed. I swear to God, I knew then and there I had it.
That's
you know
awesome.
what I mean?
Awesome.
And I tell people that if you can find those kind of moments in an audition, that's how you quote unquote win the room. You know what I mean?
You got to stand out.
Yes, and then I had these funky socks on too that I didn't even really pay much attention to, but they were pretty wild. And somebody else in the back, I love the socks,
Right.
So I felt it puts you at ease. You feel really at ease all of a sudden.
You have, and they like you just getting that positive feedback, right?
Yeah. So then they like you, and then you're doing the little bit, and they're still thinking about that other bit. When you talk about the shoes, and they kind of like you, they go, "Okay, that was great." Yeah. And then then I got a call that I got the gig. Didn't really know much about where it was going and all that. And everybody was like that on the show, kind of week to week. Everybody would say, "Did you see next week's script? Am I still alive? Do I get killed?" I'm talking like some higher up guys. I'm sure James knew. But even like Paulie Walnuts and some of them guys, they didn't really fucking know what was happening.
Really?
Week to week. Yeah.
Oh,
top secret. So there I am going along. I'm doing it. Jim's telling me, God, they like you, man. They fucking like, oh, it's great. I fucking love it, David Chase passes me one day. He goes, by the way, I really like everything you're doing on the show, I go, oh, thank you, So you think you're gonna stick around? You don't know where it's going, where you're going, where the show's going. Cruising along like that for a while, and then this is sort of pre-cell phone. He left a message on my home phone answering machine.
Wow.
Early on a Friday morning. I wasn't in that particular episode, but that was no reason for alarm because a lot of guys sat out an episode or two, Okay. Say you're in 4 in a row and you're not in the 5th, you go, no big deal. I'm not in this one. That happened a lot to a lot of people. So I wasn't in one, and I wasn't in others before that either. Not a biggie. So I wasn't in the episode on a Friday. It was a sunny Friday. He left a message on my home phone. Hey, John, but he was upbeat. John, David Chase, give me a call, please. And I'm going, you must want to give me a contract. That was a recurring. I go, well, he was upbeat. He didn't sound like, hey, give me a call, So,
well, he wasn't the one getting off. That's why he was
right.
he
sounded sort of like, hey, give me a call. I said, Jesus Christ, it must be for the fucking contract for next season. Great.
Would he have called to talk about that? Would he deal with that?
Oh, in retrospect, probably not. Maybe my agent would have called, but
yeah,
some people go, hey, he called you. Some people he didn't even call. So
yeah. Oh yeah.
I go, big fucking deal. What am I supposed to do? Say, oh, thank you, but whatever. So he called me, and then all day I called him maybe once or twice. Couldn't get a hold of him. Well, he's in a meeting. All right, I'll call you back. So like about 5 o'clock on Friday. It's him. Hey, John. Hey, David. How you doing? This is a call I hate to make, John. I went, you heartless cocksucker, you. You mother. No, something like that. I go, no.
Yeah.
He goes, I'm sorry, John. I go, oh, my God. When? It was like a real person. I go, when? He goes, next show. I go, oh, fuck. How? And then he told me.
On the piece you do.
I go, wait a minute. I go, wait a second. No, really, how? He goes, no, it's gonna be great. And I pleaded. I said, oh my God. And I mean, I'm not the only one that. I go, oh wow, man, he's fucking blown. I go, I would like to kept you around even longer. Fuck, we got to do it. We got to serve the show and the show. And this is what we do,
Elvis died that way, John. Come on. It'll be just like Elvis, right?
They referenced it. I think they referenced it in the
Oh, did they really?
episode.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They do. And, he said that. And I pleaded with him a little bit. He was patient. He was nice. But by the end of it, he almost not going to get mad at me. But he goes, hey, look, this is what it is, all right? All right, well,
this is the life we've chosen, right?
Yeah. So it was kind of nice in the first half. But
you got a fucking problem with that, huh, Fiore?
Yeah,
imagine that. Chase goes, you got a fucking problem? You know what? How about you don't die and we just forget about you?
Right. Well, that would have been worse.
Imagine that, dude. Yeah. Well, some people don't, John, as an actor, not to don't a lot of times, like where contracts get disputed, you literally just disappear from shows, right?
Yeah, that would have been worse.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. At least you had a closure.
So many scenarios. I mean, obviously you want to stay as long as you can. All right. So if you can't do that, I mean, you want some sort of, I guess the death is memorable in a way, right? So,
yeah.
But yeah, it would have been better than just fading off into nothingness because then, you probably wouldn't be talking to me right now.
No. Believe me, we'd still be talking to you, man. Your resume's unbelievable.
No, but it just would have been very anticlimactic to fade away. So
right.
So I sucked it up. Of course, I knew I had to do it. And the weird thing was, I had like 5-6 filming days in that next episode, and it's all out of sequence. So I did one scene, then I had to do the death scene, and then after like there's a week, they go for like 8-9 days the episodes. But I had to do other scenes when I was alive talking to them. It was all out of sequence. Yeah.
Wow.
And to go back to how great the show was, like, you're never going to see that in a mob movie, right? Like you're not going to see that This guy had just taken over a crew. He was stressed out. He had heart disease and he didn't know it, and he dies on the toilet. You know, this is human. This is real life stuff, not just.
It's good writing. Very good writing.
It's excellent, and it's absolutely so memorable. And I think it's actually one of the things that makes the show what it is. You know, things like that you know, you didn't just get assassinated or, you know, five people didn't execute you. You died like so many other people die of a heart attack.
So yeah, it was like a regular, like, you know, way to go. And then you start reading about it, like you said, Elvis, lots and lots of people go that way, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
And it was a real life kind of thing. And that's what he chose to do. And that was it. That's what I had to do. But then you lose, you know, you're there with, I mean, everybody's your friend. You know, they've all become your friends by now. You're making money. You have a place to go. You're on the hottest show on TV.
Yeah.
And then, like, you're cut from the team or something. So you got to leave. Now you got to go home. The money's gone. All that, you know, the place to go, the cool. Yeah, it's definitely a bummer. You know what I mean?
That's like, though. I mean, as good as it feels to get a role, I guess that's what you're up. You know, highs and lows, right? And there's a low. And you can't. So you shot everything. Like there's a flashback 3 episodes later with you and Uncle Junior after you're gone.
Right.
Did you already shot all that, or did you have to go back after and do that after you were off?
I went back at least one time. I did a little pop in season 4, just sitting in the back of a car with Dave.
Yeah, I thought so.
Out of nowhere, just sitting in the back seat of a car in a dream sequence for like 2 seconds, you know. So as far as the thing with Junior, I don't remember the sequence of that. That was probably done before. They had cut some of my. I look back, I probably got about 20% of my stuff cut. We all get stuff cut. I had, you know, some good stuff that I wish they didn't cut it. You know, sometimes they cut it for time. Sometimes they cut it for, they don't really need that in the story, maybe, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But little things get cut. So with Junior in that scene, they say something like, "What's he doing here?" And I go, hey, I'm only here as he is. Like, as kind of a fucking witness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Only, I'm not here for anything else. So the storyline is, it's not really explained per se, but in some of the books and the blog posts, I came over to Tony's crew from Uncle Junior's crew.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought I heard that. Yeah.
I'm going, oh, okay, all right. Well,
so that wasn't explained until then. Okay,
right.
Because I was on one of the. Yeah, I believe your character was known as the only guy who served in 3 different crews in the show.
But Gigi Cestone was from Boston, right? He was not a New York guy.
Yeah, well,
correct?
I know I was on the Lamb in Boston when the guy picked me up and I shot him.
Oh, yeah. I love that scene, by the way.
In Boston, so you know, so that was that. You know.
So you were the guy from Boston. So did you ever have to deal with like not getting off track with the Sopranos, but have you ever had to do anything beyond an accent, a Boston accent, or do you ever have to do any sort of maybe an English accent?
Didn't you hear him? He did an Australian accent in One Crazy Summer. You don't remember that?
I think that's the only accent I've ever done.
Seriously?
Yeah, I don't think I've done accent. I mean, no, I've never had to do an accent. No.
Yeah.
When I was on Sopranos, I tried to not sound like I was from Boston.
Oh, really? Yeah. So
I could. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I tried, and even on Law and Order, I tried to sound like, I really wanted to sound like I was from New York, you know. And that's what I tried to do whenever I could, even if it wasn't as good as some of the native New York guys, but sort of blendable. You know what I mean? I didn't want it to stick up.
Dude, John, stop. You sounded fucking awesome. First off, I'm sitting here watching these scenes. So I'm doing my research, and I'm watching. I'm like, Jesus Christ, I'm fucking scared. I'm scared of the guy I'm going to talk to tomorrow, but I know him. He's a nice guy. There's a couple of scenes I'm looking at you. I'm like, he's fucking crazy looking. But that's the amazing thing about acting, and that's why I applaud you, and I really appreciate you coming on the WBV podcast. To me, it's so cool that, acting, and like I said, I kind of dipped into it, not even going to go into it, but, I'm trying to write a horror movie, and John's being really nice to even talk about it, both me and my friends, and we're trying to film stuff. But the memorizing, the fact that somebody's looking at you just in the acting side of it, where it's like he's saying his lines, and I know I have to say my lines next, and then this person, and then certain things have to happen. And I mean, if you've never acted, and I just dipped my fucking little toe in it, it's fun, it's exhilarating, it's scary, but I mean, to make a career out of it, man, my hat is tipped, man. That's some good stuff, man. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I feel like the hardest part is the memorization of the lines.
Yes.
I can't. I literally couldn't remember how I drove home from which way I went home from the supermarket tonight.
Right.
And I couldn't. I don't think I could ever do it. Are there tricks, or how do you do it?
I mean, there are tricks. I don't know them. I used to look at how to memorize stuff, and I couldn't get into those books or listen.
You couldn't remember?
I just couldn't get into it.
Yeah, right.
So what happens is I've had times where, when you know the lines inside and out, backwards and forwards, you're super confident. So if you're nervous the day of the shoot, that will carry you through, because you'll say to yourself, no matter what happens, I'm going to know my lines. So that's number one.
Right.
So they'll say, well, whether he's acting the lines correctly or not, he knows the lines. You don't want to be there nervous and not know your lines. I've been there.
Oh.
That's the worst feeling in the world, because
that's when you freeze, right?
That's when you vomit and shit yourself.
Yeah, well, it magnifies. If you could just shake it off, like if you say you make a flub, but you know your lines and you're feeling good, you're like, oh, fuck, you just do it again. But if you're not feeling confident and you make a flub, then it goes, oh fuck, oh god, they're gonna do it again.
Well, in stand-up, there's a rule that, not a rule, but guidance, right? You may be the only one that knows you just fucked up. So don't tell the audience, just go on with it.
Right. Well, you can't do that so much in this. If it's a little,
because you got specific lines,
like if the Sopranos was very known for no ad-libbing whatsoever, none. And
that's scary. That's very scary, man. That's you have to say every word, every syllable. That's
every word. Yeah.
Wow.
And you cannot ad-lib a single word. I'm texting a guy. He keeps calling me.
He probably knows you're on the best podcast ever right now.
Who is it?
Yeah, you can't. And some say a low budget movie or whatever, and they may let you ad lib a little bit, or even some bigger ones, they might say, "Go ahead, yeah, get something to say, just keep going, whatever." But Sopranos, there was no ad libbing. Law and Order, there was no ad libbing because it was very tight. Yeah, Soaps, I did no ad libbing. So you really needed to know the lines. So
that's incredible.
You just get to the point where you go, I gotta know these lines. I just have to know them. So you just beat yourself up until you really know them. And then it becomes like a memory muscle. It is a muscle. When I did the soap, that was the true test, because I was getting 5 scripts at one time. I was in a heavy rotation on Guiding Light for a while. And for several months, I would get 5 scripts, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Oh, my God.
More lines in, say, Monday's episode than all my lines combined over, fucking Sopranos or whatever. Then you'd take a peek at Tuesdays and go, oh my God.
Huge
paragraph. And then you peek at Wednesday and you go like this.
Very small font.
Oh, you just freaked out. I mean, I remember being totally freaked out going, so let me get this straight. I have pages to memorize for Monday. So you can't even look at Tuesday or Wednesday because you get to Monday. So when I get through Monday, I'll have to go learn all this shit for Tuesday and so forth and so on.
Yeah, and those were 5 days a week, right? Or 4, or you probably shooting.
Oh, they're 5 days a week. Sometimes you're in heavy. Sometimes your storyline, goes to the background a little bit. But I had things where I was in 5 days a week for multiple weeks. And then it becomes like a muscle. You just are able to memorize things. You know what I mean?
That's incredible.
Well, Go ahead,
Tim.
No, go ahead, Tim.
I was just going to say, I think that Paulie Walnuts obviously might be in my top 3 funniest characters I've ever seen, and none of that was improvised. That was just how it was written. That's amazing.
Wow.
I mean, to think he wasn't improvising any of that or ad-libbing.
No. Tony Sirico was a lot like Paulie Walnuts. That's what I'm saying. What I started to say before. Everybody in that show, they're great actors, and even if they're playing themselves or a variation for themselves, they're still great actors. Doesn't take away if it's like, but Paulie, there was a lot of Tony in Paulie, so they observe him and they write for him. Chase observes the personality and the way he talks and acts, and that stuff starts to make its way into the character's dialogue,
Gotcha. Yeah, because he was a connected guy.
Oh yeah.
Previous to that, and he was, I think he was in Goodfellas too. I don't know if he was.
The one thing I picked up on Paulie Walnuts is when he points at somebody as the pinky and the pointer finger.
Index finger,
I fucking love that. Every time it's almost like an extra. It's one thing when somebody points at you and like says, "Hey, fucking Denny, get over here," But it's also if they have like the 2 fingers, and it just means more. And a tracksuit fucking gets me every time.
Yeah, he does that in real life. So that's a perfect example. That's what he does. That was kind of Tony's thing, and he brought that. I mean, like I said, there was not a lot of difference between Tony and Paulie, but there was some, of course, and that's what made it. That's what made it.
All right, hey, listen, John, we're gonna do a quick game, okay, and then we're gonna wrap it up because I don't want to keep you too long. But thank you so much for being on the WBV podcast. 133, John Fiore, Gigi Cestone, and a gazillion other actor things. I love. Did you ever meet Mark Wahlberg in Patriots Day? No, did you see him?
I met him. I didn't work with him, but I met him there on the set briefly.
Yeah. You ever get starstruck when you see, like anybody?
Never.
No.
No, I always go, fuck you, I'm better than you.
That's awesome.
Hey, fucker Wahlberg, get over here.
I got a little starstruck back in not starstruck, but in Meet the Parents, which, by the way, I had 2 great scenes. They cut them out, but I got to meet De Niro when I was a fan of De Niro's.
Oh.
We all know why we're not fans of De Niro right now.
He's a lefty.
Because he's a lunatic.
Oh, he's he's big turnoff. But anyway, he was my favorite at that time. So when I got to work with him and see him, I saw him 2 or 3 days. He was very mellow, not really outgoing, but kind of like his impressions you see of him. And I remember being nonplussed because I had watched his movies like 7, 8 times each, like Raging Bull, or all of them. So all of a sudden there he was in front of me, and I went, I see him all the time. It just didn't feel like anything like God. Because I saw him so many fucking times in these movies. So there he was in person, and I'm going, okay, well, it's Robert De Niro. All right, big deal. Okay. And he was very, not intimidating. You didn't feel like, I can't do this in front of him.
Yeah.
Which was, that's a good trait he had because you didn't feel that way at all, Although you never know from the movie now because, like I said, I had direct dialogue with him. 2 nice little bits. They cut out those assholes.
I was trying to find that because I saw that I think the character's name was Kinky.
Yeah, right.
I'm thinking why can't I've seen that movie obviously a million times. I just couldn't place it, so that makes sense.
The story about that is, and something I had, I blame the hairdresser on the set. I'm not even kidding. I know for a fact that I was a replacement for somebody, and that happens. I don't care. A lot of big actors are replacements that went on to be whatever. So it didn't bother me if somebody. So it was a week before I get hired. That they hired me for that. And the character's name was Kinky because if you recall, De Niro had just looked at the suitcase full of dildos and all that.
Yeah.
So there was a scene where I talked to him at the airport counter about Ben Stiller, and I have to talk to him about your friend had a meltdown on the airplane, come with me. My name is Kinky Erganian. I am the head of airport security, sir. Can you come with me? Your friend has had a meltdown. So he pulls me over to the side, and he shows me that he's CIA in his wallet. It's a badge. I'm like, oh. So then we're going down the escalator, and he's staring at me. He goes, "Why do they call you Kinky? Because of your hair?" Which made no sense at all. I had regular. Yeah, they cut. So the hairdresser, I remember that day, right? I didn't have like an afro or anything. I had longer hair. And I guess if he didn't cut it, maybe the line would have sold.
Oh, so it didn't make any sense.
It made zero sense.
Oh, right.
And then I started thinking, like, because you think about it years later, it would have been like a joke if he said, "Why do they call you Kinky? Because of your hair?" And if I went, like, huh? Like,
yeah.
That would have been a joke too.
Right.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. That's why they call me Kinky, huh? Or whatever. But what the case is, they cut it out. So all that's left is when I open the door and I say, whatever I say, "Take 5, Jack. We got a specialist here."
Oh, all right.
So that's all that was left of it. Then you say to yourself as an actor, thank God that was left, because that leaves you on the residual gravy train.
Oh, that's right. We were talking about that earlier. The rerun. Sorry. How does it work again? You're talking about getting money post the movie.
Anytime it's there. Right?
Yeah, the residuals, because I end up working 6 days on that. So they have to pay you for. It's calculated that you work 6 days on it. So your rate, your residual rate, is higher than a guy that did 1 day. So if you make the final cut of the movie, you're entitled to that. And that has turned out, because that's become what you would call like a modern day classic, so to speak. Yeah. Like an old school classic, because they play it all the time. So that's been a good moneymaker.
Oh yeah. And do you have that same setup with Law and Order, or is that different because it's not a movie? Because I mean, TNT is literally the Law and Order network now. I don't know if they show anything else.
It's never gone away, man. I mean, they've been getting money from them.
That's awesome.
What, 80s? God, 87? I don't even know.
Do they do direct deposit, or do you get checks in the mail?
Now, they started about a year ago. Screen Actors Guild started doing direct deposit.
There you go. See? Now you have to cash shit and go to the stupid bank.
Oh, I used to get stacks of envelopes. I mean, sometimes they were good ones, and sometimes they're like $10, $12, $15. You get some that are hundreds of dollars. I've gotten them thousands of dollars. But it just made it a lot easier to have direct deposit now.
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, you're in that movie is a classic, and all the other ones after it sucked. But Meet the Parents is like, you're right. It's like up there with some of the great comedies of all time.
Yeah, I mean, that's just looking. I mean, like I said, I mean, going through your IMDb, I mean, you're talking about classics after I mean, these are, I haven't named them all. I mean, just for the WBV audience, check out John Fiore IMDb. Check out all the movies he's been in, for sure. We're going to do a game right now. We're going to do a game, and this is going to be very simple. We're going to have Tony versus John. So Tony and John will now play together, and this is a WBV game. So it's called.
And John, this doesn't count, so we don't really keep track.
Nobody gets a trophy. Nobody wins.
Sure why we do this.
It's okay. It's just me having some fun there. Famous lines from The Sopranos, or from the WBV podcast. So in other words, is this from Sopranos, or did my ass make this shit up?
Okay.
Here we go. And I put in parentheses in my notes here, use my best Italian accent. So here we go.
Oh, God.
All right, here we go. By land, because God ain't making any more of it. Oh, that was terrible. By the way, I'm half Irish and half Italian, so if I'm leaning either way, it's my fault. So here we go again. First one. Is this The Sopranos or WBV? By land, because God ain't making any more of it. And I can tell you who said it.
Whose turn is it, Denny?
Well, you guys both have to guess. It's not nobody's winning shit. Just guess.
There's no prize.
All right. I guess I'll say you made that up.
All right. Tony, what do you have?
Well, John hasn't heard the stuff you make up yet, so I'm going to say that's from The Sopranos.
That is correct. That is from Tony Soprano. Tony Soprano said that. By land, because God ain't making more of it, okay? I know. That's a deep one. Here we go.
I'll probably lose all these.
That's okay. No worries. Here we go. Number 2. Can you fucking believe the meatball sandwich only had 4 meatballs? Go cut the fucking manager's balls so I can have a 6 meatball sub sandwich. Who is that? Is that the Sopranos or WBV?
I'm just gonna,
I love how John's like,
that's Danny saying that.
I don't know, Tony. What do you think?
I can't picture David Chase okaying that.
He wanted a 6 meatball sub, motherfucker. All right, here we go. Third one. Can I just get some? Wait, hold on. Let me go. Sorry, my Italian accent. Left side. That's because the right side's my Irish side. Can I get some gravy and macaroni? No, I'm sorry. Can I just get some macaroni and gravy? That's it. That's the line.
That's from The Sopranos.
Okay, Tony.
Yeah.
Sopranos it is. Paulie Walnut says that one. Oh, by the way, the first one was...
was that when they were in Italy? That's when they were in Italy. Everyone was eating fish, and he's looking around like, what the fuck?
The by land one was Tony Soprano. Sorry. All right, here we go. I don't care how close you are. In the end, your friends are going to let you down. Family, they're the only ones that you depend on. That you can depend on.
Sopranos.
I know, Denny. I think that was one of our first episodes. You gave me that advice, fatherly advice.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I don't remember that. So, what do you got, Tony?
Oh, WBV.
No, that's Sopranos. John, if we were taking points here, I don't know, John, I'd be doing good. Here we go. The next one. That fucking guy looks like a cracked out Danny DeVito who just found out he has AIDS and can't dunk on a kid's basketball hoop. Sopranos or WBV?
I'll just mix it up by saying it's you.
Yeah, I agree.
That's correct, guys. You guys are doing really good. 2 more left. Two more. Here we go. I was hanging out at the Frangulio's 4th of July party when guests rolled up. Motherfucking Andrew Newpapper and his gang of thugs.
You can always... Here's Denny's tell. He laughs at the ones he roasts. That one's you, Dan.
You don't think that was David Chase?
No.
That doesn't sound like David Chase, but you don't know.
You don't remember Andrew Newpapper and he was part of the fucking Chi-Chi gang, you know? Come on.
I don't.
All right, here's the last one. And you should know this, Mr. John Fiore. They're going to find this piece of shit in a trunk someday.
Oh, I know that one.
Ah!
That's the great Gigi Cestone.
Boom! We got a fucking winner, man. We got a winner. That was awesome, right? Oh, nice. Man. Hey, that was my little game. I'm sorry. Tony thinks I like to stroke myself during these games, but it's fun, you know?
A little bit.
John, thank you so much for joining the WBV podcast. This is 133. Hold on, Tony. I'll give you 1 sec. I want to make sure we promote anything you got going on. So I know you're on Cameo. So is there a way to promote kind of how you do it? Just look up John Fiore on Cameo.
We just give shout outs. I mean, it's kind of the thing that we're all doing. There's going to be a Soprano one they're working on too, specifically for Sopranos. But a lot of actors, there's been a supply and demand for it. You purchase like video greetings now.
It's cool. I've done it.
We say whatever you want us to say, like little fucking prank monkeys.
Yeah. No, I mean, you know what? Honestly, I sent one to. So my brother Matthew got COVID. My brother's only what? He's 40, just turned 40. He got COVID, and he's a plumber, right? So he's whatever. He's fine. So he did the quarantine, you know, and then he comes out of quarantine. So I did a cameo for him with Coco Beware with the fucking parrot. He's a huge wrestling fan. So I'm like, oh my God, the guy's there. I'm like, this would be awesome. So and he was laughing. He was loving it. But I mean, I think it's such a cool thing, man. These are famous people.
It's not bad. You get a few bucks here and there. It's very passive. No big deal. But yeah, no, things are kind of at a standstill. Nothing's really pending or cooking. Everything had kind of stopped with this. And,
the whole I'm sure there's going to be a big lull in entertainment. You know, however long this goes.
Good point. Yeah, good point.
Well, some guys I've heard, like, say you somehow are able to produce, say 3-4 shows, even a one-off. If it was tight and half decent, a lot of these streaming outfits will take it off your hands. Just to have.
Oh, because they just need content.
Yeah, no, they need content. So that I've heard of a couple of cases where that's happened, and there's still probably a chance to do it because when this ends, the smaller crew, the smaller budget, smaller cast movies can mobilize quicker with less restrictions. Hollywood's going to be bound by all these kind of parameters and rules now about get close and don't touch and the mask and all this bullshit. It's going to be a big fucking ordeal. You know what I mean?
This is going to be.
They just said that California is going until the end of July, which is
that's
absurdity.
Insanity.
This is all fucking ridiculous.
This is going to be like watching fucking porno with condoms. People are going to be on fucking guiding light with masks on their face.
Well, that's what if
good to see you. Let's fuck. We can't fuck. We can't get too close.
What if the three of us write a movie where we're three surgeons and the whole movie takes place during one operation? And all we do is just go back and forth, the three of us, with dialogue.
Yeah.
And we all wear masks because we're performing surgery.
Then we should, that's pretty fucking tough.
All shit like that. You know, me and my friend tried to do something, and we're still trying to do it. He was filming from where he was. I was filming from where I was. And we're still fucking around with it.
Yeah.
Trying to incorporate the separation and the quarantine as to why we're not together. We're on the phone. Do some stuff by ourselves, but it's a little tricky. You're filming yourself by yourself, setting stuff up, but we're messing around with this stuff,
John, what was the?
There's going to be a market.
John, you actually did a Facebook Live recently with Frank Santorelli, who was also the bartender, right, in Sopranos.
Yeah.
So are you like doing shows with him, or what?
Did you say that we do shows with him?
Yeah. Are you doing like a podcast, or is that like a one-off?
We did that. We did that as a. We'll probably do it again.
It was cool, man.
We messed it up. Fun. We got screwed up technically, of course, in the beginning of it.
Always,
Well, I don't know what the fuck we were on. Are we on? I don't know if we're fucking on here.
25 minutes.
People are texting me going, "You're on. You guys are on." I go, "I don't fucking see that fucking going on here."
Where the fuck am I? Who's doing who here?
So, Frank and I were good friends for a long time. We've done personal appearances together as Gigi and Georgie.
Oh, okay, that's right.
Sopranos. We talk all the time, and we're gonna be doing more stuff together. Whether it be that or whatever. We stay in touch all the time. So,
did you do Sopranos Con down in Jersey?
I did do that. It was fantastic.
Oh man, that looks so cool. I'm not a big fan of many things, but Sopranos is one of them.
Yeah.
I would. That looks great. Obviously, it's probably going to get bumped, but that looked like a blast.
Let's put it this way, John. We've been waiting to do this interview since I met you at that school
6 years ago.
I'm not kidding, because like I said, I'm a fan, but Tony's a big fucking fan, and that's that's awesome. I'm so glad.
So because I'm a big fan, I know we're wrapping, and I'm so sorry.
That's okay, man.
I've heard this many times, James Gandolfini. I've never heard a bad word about him. Great guy or what?
Oh yeah, no, he really was a great guy because as I mentioned, he let me stay in his apartment. He heard me that I didn't have a place to stay in the early stages of me doing that show. I was in between sublet apartments. I had many in New York over the years, but at that time I didn't have one. And sometimes actors, especially when you're younger, you don't worry about if they say be here tomorrow, you'll go, and you don't even think of where you're going to stay or what's happening.
Yeah.
And on Friday nights, my first job was on a Friday, my first day. And I didn't realize, I did loosely, but I didn't think they went that late. On Fridays, all shows go till 1, 2, 3 in the morning if they have to, because there's no 12-hour turnaround. There has to be a 12-hour turnaround for the crew to get rest and all that.
Okay.
The union stuff. So I went till 2, 3 in the morning. I'm like, oh my God, what the fuck am I going to stay? That wasn't the night he set me up, but he heard me another time, and I was just getting to know him. And he came up to me and said, I'm going to have my assistant bring keys over to an apartment I keep on Jane Street in Manhattan. I go, you don't have to do that. He goes, no, I got a house. My house is around the corner. You just stay there. Let me stay for a while. And I stayed there. And it was awesome. It was such a great thing. Him doing that for me. And he didn't have to do that, and I got a little insight into, it was this place, it was James's apartment, all the stuff there. And it was surreal, he was really a nice guy. You
might have been a little starstruck, right?
Well, he was he was the daddy of the show. No matter what age you were, even though I was older than him, he seemed older because he looked older. He was.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, no, he was but he was very humble, very not intimidating in any way like that. He was just great, really great.
Yeah, I never heard. You usually hear one bad thing about somebody, not that guy.
No, he was. A lot of times someone passes away, people honestly. So I said this when he was alive, and everybody. He was just great. He was great to all of us on the show. He made you feel good, made you feel welcome, made you feel confident. All that stuff.
Those are amazing traits, man. I mean, and you got to be part of it, man. You're still doing it. You're still doing your thing, and maybe someday,
it never goes away. It's just the kind of show. It's so big. It's just not going away in any shape or form. Matter of fact, it seems to be growing. In some way.
Well, then
you're doing the prequel.
I was just going to say the prequel part, right?
Prequel's coming out.
Saints of Newark, is it?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny.
Is Tony like 5 in the movie? Tony Soprano, is he 5?
Well, no, he's going to be older than that.
Oh, is he in his teens or something?
Well, his real son is playing him in the prequel.
Oh,
I don't feel like any anticipation or drawn to the prequel at the moment because I know it's all different people. I'm sure once it gets out there, I'll probably like it a lot. But it feels like it's the prequel. It doesn't feel like the same show in a way.
Oh yeah, because you want to see those same people.
So who's writing? Is it David Chase?
Yeah.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
I'm sure
interesting.
It'll be great. So once we see it, we'll probably go, yeah. But right now, I'm like, it's really
John.
Exactly.
What was a really good prequel was Dumb and Dumberer. That was really that piece of shit. Nothing worse than writing a piece of shit and then it bombs. It's like, So I'm assuming since David is the baby, I'm sorry, he's the writer of this monster. If he's got enough, we'll see. I mean, I assume it's going to be some great writing and great filming. That's it. Yeah. But they'll all have masks on, so we'll have to figure that one out.
Yeah. We'll have to wait.
All right, we're going to wrap up. WBV 133. John Fiore, thank you so much for joining the show.
Pleasure.
Thank you, guys. Talk soon, Denny.
Absolutely, my friend. We're going to talk soon about movies and all that fun stuff.
Yes,
check him out on Cameo. Check him out on IMDb. Check him out anywhere. He's John Fiore. Thank you so much. And tell your family I said hello, okay, bud?
Same to you. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, man.